Hi there, I'm Emma Hollywood, and welcome to And the Show Goes On. I'm an actress, and like so many, I'm navigating the highs and lows of this unpredictable industry. But there's more to my story. I'm also living with an invisible illness. And if there's one thing I've learned, it's that the show really does go on. In each episode, we'll dive into the world of acting, uncovering the realities behind the glitz and the glamour. We'll talk openly about the challenges, from auditions to the art of managing it all with health challenges that don't take a day off. And I won't be alone. I'll be joined by incredible guests, actors, advocates, and others who share this journey. Together we'll share stories, laughter, insights, and inspiration to help you keep pushing forward no matter what. So join me every week on And the Show Goes On. Let's navigate this path together with resilience and a sense of humour, because no matter what, the show goes on. Hello and welcome back to And the Show Goes On. Thank you for joining me. In today's episode, we have a very exciting guest. We have the amazing Ed Larkin. Ed Larkin is an actor, and you will most likely know him from playing Henry Fraser in The Little Big Things in the West End. Ed was the first ever wheelchair user to play a lead in the West End, so it was very exciting to talk to him. Just a couple of tech things to mention this episode. There was a slight issue with the connection of the microphone. You can still hear my voice, but it was connected through my phone rather than the microphone. There were also a couple of tech glitches on Ed's side. Despite a couple of minor tech difficulties, this interview is still absolutely amazing and I loved speaking with Ed. Thank you so much, Ed, for talking with me, and I hope you all enjoy the episode. Hi, Ed. Thank you so much for coming on. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Yeah, not too bad at all.
Amazing. Just to start off, could you please tell the listeners a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Yeah, so hi, my name's Ed Larkin. I'm an actor. I'm a wheelchair user, and I kind of do a bit of everything. From kind of straight acting, musical theatre, a little bit of film and TV. Yeah, a bit of everything, whatever I can kind of get my hands on, really.
Oh, amazing. How did you get into acting and specifically like the musical theatre industry? Because I know you do both stage and screen, but the most recent years you focused on stage, haven't you?
Yeah, so I kind of fell into getting involved into kind of performing arts growing up. I think my parents were kind of very adamant that they'd like find a hobby for me to do. I think I was kind of 7 or 8 and I didn't really have anything that I loved to do. And they were like, oh, I'm sure we can find us something to do. And they just signed me up to like a performing arts club on a Friday evening in my local town. And I just fell in love with it. And then I stayed with them and from like 7 all the way through to 18. And they kind of really shaped me, I guess, and how much I enjoyed musical theatre and performing in general. Um, and then, yeah, so I did that kind of for fun. And then, like a lot of people, just kind of went through school and found out it was kind of the thing that I felt like I was best at and most comfortable with. And went through education, did it through GCSEs, A levels, and then went on to university to study acting. So it just kind of happened naturally, I guess. But it was from the moment of my parents kind of saying, "Oh, we'll give this a go. You might like it," and I ended up loving it, which was really cool. And then from the musical theatre point of view, I always loved musical theatre. Big part of my life growing up. Always very lucky to go and see shows and things as a kid. So musical theatre was a big part of my life, just in terms of what I enjoyed, and always did singing, but never really saw myself doing musical theatre. But when I was auditioning for kind of drama schools, universities, I thought, oh, why not? I'll audition for some musical theatre. Got in, got accepted for some places, but then decided not to because I didn't see anyone like me doing musical theatre. So I decided to generalise my training and become an actor because it felt at the time kind of the more safe route for my career, just to be like realistic at that point and where the industry was at. So it's kind of been a bit of a weird turn of events now. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's been a bit of a journey to get where I'm at the moment.
Yeah, what made you want to turn your hobby into a career, and how did you find Visable, which is your agency, and I'm on the same agency? How
Mhm.
did you like change it into a career?
Yeah, I mean, that's always a difficult one because I think all of us, whether you do it professionally or not, we always grow up kind of loving the industry in whatever way, maybe just for fun. Um, and I always felt like I would just give it a go, and I never really knew if I would have the ability to do it at the time in terms of my self-confidence growing up, but I just wanted to give it a go. And It was I found out about Visible, our agency, through when I auditioned for my university that I ended up training at for my acting degree. Um, the head lecturer came over to me and said, "Oh, do you actually know about this agency?" A couple of years before my audition. And I said, "Oh no, I don't." And he kind of got me in touch with them. And it went from there really, from kind of 2016, a year or so before I started training. And I just suddenly thought, oh, blimey, this isn't just a bit of fun that you can have. Like, there's people out there that want to employ people like me, which is really cool. Um, and obviously, there's always question marks about disability and what that means for the industry. Um, but I've always tried to look at it as almost my unique selling point, if you like, that it makes me and other people in the industry stand out a little bit. So I started to realize that there was an avenue to go down. Um, and yeah, it just got exciting. I thought, oh, blimey, maybe this can be a career for me. Um, and you're never quite sure whether it will become a career, because the industry is so tough. But I'm very
Yeah.
fortunate to be able to call it that at the moment. So yeah,
You touched on it a little bit there, but would you mind telling the listeners a little bit about your disability and how it affects you in your career?
yeah, sure. So I'm a wheelchair user. I have cerebral palsy, which is a disability that I got from birth with a bleed in the brain, which affects my ability to stand or walk. So I've got full upper body movement, but I've got no function in my lower limbs. I can have full sensation, and I can move my limbs, but can't weight bear on them. So yeah, I'm a full-time wheelchair user. And yeah, I guess it does impact the industry because um, not every role is kind of built for somebody like me. Um, but having said that, when I do get in a room, especially if it's a disabled role, I'm not against 100 other people that look and sound like me. So, there are roles that I can't do that maybe I'd want to. But then there are also roles that kind of I can do, and there's less of us to fight with each other because it's such a competitive industry. So, there's moments where it can be a challenge, but I try and look at it as kind of a positive. And like I said before, I try and treat my disability as a unique selling point in the industry and try and use it as much to my advantage as I can. But having said all this, the industry is getting better,
Yeah.
especially in theatre. Representation is increasing. There's still a long way to go, but hopefully, me and other people like me can start pushing important conversations about diversity in the industry, and hopefully we'll get there.
Yeah, 100%. What is your experience of being like a wheelchair user in the theatre industry? I know you touched on it a bit
Mm,
there because I know theatres are notoriously inaccessible. What was your experience like, for example, when you did the Little Big Things on
mm.
the West End? What was it like, in your opinion, like the accessibility in theatres?
Yeah, so just to kind of go off what you're talking about to start with, I get asked this question quite a lot from people who are just interested and said, why do you think disability isn't diversity casting with disability doesn't happen as much? And to be honest, the main actual problem that I've come across is theatre access. It's not that they don't want to cast disability, it's that they can't get in the buildings,
Yeah,
unfortunately. So that is a challenge. Um, a couple of regional theatres that I have been to are pretty good. There's some good regional theatres out there. Um, Places like the Curve, the Lowry, Theatre Royal Plymouth, um, the London Palladium is a little accessible as well, which is great. The South Bank Centre is also good. So that there is a kind of some more regional theatres that are really good. There's not tons of West End theatres that are accessible. When I did Little Big Things, I was very lucky because Soho Place is the only fully wheelchair accessible West End theatre, both for audience members and backstage, with completely flat entrances and lifts everywhere, and it's very accessible. So, from Little Big Things point, is very fortunate because it was a space that was kind of felt like it was made for our show, really, and we were really lucky that meant that everybody no matter their disability, could get around and use the space, which was super cool. Yeah, it's a great venue.
yeah, amazing. Like you were the first wheelchair user in the West End, weren't you? Which is absolutely amazing. What was the reaction like from audiences? Like it must be amazing for aspiring disabled actors to see someone like you on the stage in a wheelchair. What was that like? Was that really rewarding?
Thank you. Yeah, that's so lovely to hear. That's really nice. J just to say, just to clarify, that I was lucky enough to be the first person in a wheelchair to lead a musical. But there have been other people in wheelchairs before me that have done the
Okay.
work.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so I was very fortunate to be the first to lead a musical, and the response was amazing, to be honest. Um, I think just to have people at stage door afterwards, and they might enjoy the show, but to come away and say, I love the fact that I saw me on stage was super special. And it's been amazing. I mean, I've said this in interviews before, but there is also a bit of an element on my part that there was a bit of frustration that it was really cool that it was me, and I feel super honored and lucky that it could have been me. But also the fact that when I did it, it was 2023 when it opened, and I was the first to lead a musical, and it was like it felt like a bit of a shame, really, that it's taken so long.
Yeah.
But yeah, super cool to have the response. Um, yeah, it was a really special time, and hopefully that show and other shows like it can raise awareness about disability and inclusion in the industry, and hopefully it's just the beginning for us and the industry.
Yeah, 100%. What would you say needs to be changed the most with accessibility? Because I know, like, theatres, they're just, I mean, you can't really get in them, but is there anything else, like, accessibility wise, that you think needs to be changed?
I think it's difficult. It's difficult. Yeah, I think number one, unfortunately, is access to theatres, but that's a really big thing that will have to change with stuff over time.
Yeah.
Mm. But the main thing I think personally is perceptions of ability and disabled performers, um, because a lot of scripts that I read in all different parts of the industry, majority of them at the moment is the character is written as a disabled character. Um, and the kind of point of their existence in the play is based around disability. I've been
Yeah.
lucky enough to do a few since that aren't that, which is amazing. But I think that's what needs to shift. It'd be really cool to start seeing kind of stereotypically able-bodied characters being cast differently, and kind of casting teams and shows looking a bit outside the box. Because there's definitely people out there that can do certain roles, but it will just might look a little different. But I think that's the big shift, is when we start seeing disabled roles that are just, or disabled actors that just happen to be disabled, and it's not even a conversation. Like, it doesn't have to be a headline, or there doesn't have to be a podcast about it. It's just a performer who's good enough for the job. So I think that's the big shift. That's when we'll know that change has really happened. Obviously, that feels like quite a long way away, to be honest. Um,
Yeah.
but I think that's when we will really realise that times have changed.
Yeah. Do you think it is getting better accessibility, especially in theatres?
Absolutely, it's getting a lot better. 100%. And there's a lot more. Yeah, there's a lot more shows out there that are looking for more diverse casting, disability or otherwise, which is really cool. Um, Also, I think perceptions are changing, and I'm seeing more and more people coming out of drama schools that are disabled too, which when I was auditioning, there wasn't many of us about um,
Yeah.
a couple of years ago. So even in the last few years, there's definitely been some changes in the industry, which is cool.
Yeah. I mean, just going back to being an actor in general, do you have a
Mm.
favourite job that you've done or a specific experience in your acting career that like really stuck out to you?
Yeah, so I've got two really. I think one that actually really stuck out with me was when I was in training. Um, I was really fortunate that my course at Modern University in Plymouth, it was called the Actors Wheel, and it was a really special time because it was a hybrid between kind of drama school university training and repertoire company training. So at the end of every year, our final show would be a professional show that would tour a certain region, which was really cool. And in my first year, we specialised in Shakespeare, and we did a production of Julius Caesar. And the director got me to lead it as Brutus, which was an amazing experience. And also kind of shaped me and gave me a bit of confidence because it was also kind of terrifying because
Yeah, I
Shakespeare's
can imagine.
daunting, and I was kind of a first year, and they just kind of went go for it, which was really cool. So that was a really um, great time that felt like it really got me excited for the industry and the possibilities of it. When you're in early stages of training, it's all that's all really exciting. So that stuck with me. And then probably a really predictably boring answer, but Little Big Things was were probably the most special project I've done professionally, um, just because of how much it had an impact on the people that saw it, and the fact that I got to do my first ever musical. Someone that hadn't trained professionally in musical theatre and was kind of thrown in to lead the show and got to experience workshops for the first time. It was super special. Also for me, just to say that the thing that I'll hold close to my heart about that show is the company around me. They were so supportive. You know, they all knew that it was my first gig in musical theatre, and they all held me up. And the cast was so, you know, a lot of them were very, very experienced, and they really shared their knowledge with me, which was amazing. I mean, yeah, to have your stage mum in your professional musical theatre debut be Lindsay Haitley, that was pretty cool. So yeah, I was very fortunate, and that show will always stick with me and be very special.
Yeah, 100%. I think it will stick with many, many people.
Mhm.
You've done both stage and screen. Um, what have the differences been with accessibility in your opinion? Do you think maybe like screen is more accessible than stage, for example?
I think so at the moment. Yeah, I think so. But I think that also comes with locations.
Yeah,
You know, they can find locations that have flat entrances, and you know they can kind of work around you a bit more. Um, and also, I think theatre has always been a bit of an older art form. It's more traditional, so they've been less over the years. Have been less up for kind of breaking the mold and taking the risks. Is where I think, in general, TV and film are slightly more forward thinking in terms of disability casting. If I'm being completely honest, so I think that is a bit more. Um, accessible for sure. But I think it's just the way the industries are. I think they're very quite two different industries, really.
yeah, yeah, definitely. Um, what would you say your main career goal is, and where do you see yourself in, for example, like 10 years? What is the end game for you, if
Oh
there is
my, that's a big question.
one?
Um, you know, I don't know. It's probably a really boring answer, but for me, I think I would just like to be working as much as I can.
Yeah,
Um, you know, I know, and a lot of us know how tough the industry is. So just to keep working and being able to make this my career, you know, and having this be the sustainable thing, be the dream. Um, because it's such a balancing act to try and, you know, live life as it is right now with the acting career. So yeah, to have it as kind of my full-time thing where I keep working, I think is the dream, the goal. I think show-wise, well, there's a couple of things that I think what would be amazing would be to be part of a time where where there's non-disabled characters being played by disabled people. That'd be
yeah,
really cool, and I'd love to be involved in that if that ever came to be a thing or comes to be a thing more regularly. That'd be really cool. And then a show specifically, I would really love to do Richard III, uh, because he's this person, and it would be really cool to kind of do that. That would be a big show goal, just because I think that would be really cool to go back to Shakespeare, um, and to do that would be pretty epic. So that would be a cool thing to do. But to be honest, just to keep working would be lovely. Just to people wanting to
yeah.
employ me would be the best thing. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Do you have like an actor that's inspired you the most, or do you have someone in mind that you'd want to work with in the future?
Yeah, I think from an inspirational point of view, or somebody I look to, especially pre-training, was probably, oh my gosh, I'm going to forget their name now. This is absolutely terrible, isn't it? Um, the lady on Broadway who was the first wheelchair user in musical theatre on Broadway,
Oh,
Ali
I think
Stoker.
I know who you're talking about, but I can't remember
Yeah,
the name either.
that's Ali Stoker. I've just
Oh
remembered.
yeah,
And they won the Tony. So I think with Spring Awakening. So I think they were a big inspiration, because I saw that musical theatre was possible. So that was cool to see. And then in terms of an actor that I really admire and I think is actually very underrated and has been robbed of an Oscar multiple times already and would love to work with him, is someone like Andrew Garfield. Is just
yes,
like very, very good. How he didn't get his Oscar for Tick Tick Boom, I'm not too sure because that is a
yeah,
phenomenal performance. But I don't know, something about him is he's amazing at what he does. Really, really great. And then obviously somebody like Olivia Colman, but what a legend. So
Yeah. Oh, I gotta love
their
Olivia Colman.
reaches, they are amazing. So yeah.
Yeah, amazing. What advice would you give to aspiring actors and specifically other disabled actors who are worried that they can't get in the industry because of their disability?
Yeah, so a couple of things. I think for general actors and performers, a couple of things. I think number one, and something I reflected on after I finished my training, is number one, really enjoy your training. Like it can be really difficult. And I know I got really sucked into the fact that it was academic, that I had to get grades, and it would like shape my future, and it was all really stressful.
Yeah,
I look back at it and I go, blimey, I spent 3 years performing every single day. Um, and even now, as a professional, that doesn't happen. That's very, very lucky. So I'd kind of love to go back and be able to do what I love every day of the year. So I'd say number one is enjoy training because it's like super cool, even though it can be stressful. Just try and enjoy it as much as possible.
yeah,
Um, and the other one for general as well, I think, is just try and be when you're in casting and things. Just try and be the nicest person you can be. Because you can be uber talented, but if you're difficult to work with and a bit of a diva, then
yeah,
you're not going to get employed. And also, the industry is so much about kind of a domino effect. The more you do, the more you get. And if you do well, you get seen by the same casting teams because they know A, you can do a job, and B, you're a nice person. And also, you've got to work with people for, if a show goes well, 6 to 9 months. And you don't want, bad things to circulate about you. So I think number
no,
one, really simply, is just be a good human being. Because that makes everyone's job and your job a lot easier. So that's my like number one, just be a good person. And then for the disabled community, I think I think it's all about a mindset thing because I came into the industry or before the industry really like negative and worried about the perceptions of the industry. But I'd go in with a positive mindset and try and treat your disability, whatever it is, as your USP, as like your unique selling point that makes you stand
yeah,
out. It's not a limitation. It gives you more opportunities in different audition rooms. Um, and just try and have faith in your ability. And also, if you get an audition, go in and all the panel want you to do is to succeed. I was always worried that they'd be like looking to catch you out, but every single person
yeah,
in that room wants that person to get the job, which is something I've started to realize. So just kind of treat your disability as a unique selling point and use it to your advantage and be confident about it, because the industry is getting better. So yeah, just have faith in yourself, which is a big thing. It's scary. I feel it too, still as a performer. But yeah, just go for it, I'd say. Definitely.
yeah. What advice would you give for like rejection? Because I know that
Mm.
like for many actors and for me as well, like rejection is
Yeah.
something that can really weigh you down. What would you say is good advice for actors who are struggling with, not getting
Mm.
jobs?
Yeah, I was going to mention this actually. Um, yeah, another bit of advice and also answering your question is kind of expect to have a lot of no's.
Yeah,
You kind of get those 100 no's before the one yes, really.
yeah,
Um, and it's something I struggle with too, and I've had to try and like navigate how you cope with it. For me now, I try and as best as I can not get too excited
yeah,
over the role being offered in audition. I've done it before, and you kind of envision yourself in it, and you get really excited about the idea, and it's your first round. You're like you really
yeah,
don't worry about it too much. And
yeah,
it's really difficult. But what I tend to try and do now is if I have a no, just try and forget about it, delete the email, delete the sides, and just focus on the next thing. Um, you know, it's really it's really hard. It's really difficult. The industry is
yeah,
really tough. But you've just got to stay as positive and level-headed as possible. And I think, you know, moving on and kind of trying to think of the next thing, or if you've not got another thing coming, send those emails to the cast directors. Um, your spotlight. do things you find fun that isn't your career, go out and do things you enjoy. Um, yeah, it's challenging, but I think just trying to crack on and not let it weigh you down is the best thing. And it's never personal either. Like if you try and see a rejection is not, they're not rejecting you.
Yeah.
They're just they just don't think you fit. And it's not that you're not bad at what you do. You could do an amazing audition. But for example, I mean, I've had it before. If you're going in to play a sibling, it depends on who they cast. If you've not
Yeah.
got brown eyes and everyone else has, you're not going to get the role. So try not to take it personally as well, I think is a big help. And it's just a job,
Yeah.
as well. To look at it as a career is also a thing. But it's difficult. It is a hard thing.
Yeah. 100%. Thank you so much for speaking with me.
That's
Where
okay.
can my listeners find you? Do you have like social media that they can follow you on that I can link
Yeah.
down below?
Amazing. So the main social media I use is just Instagram. So
Mhm.
it's just at Ed Larkin. So ED and then Larkin, Larkin. That's it.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you so much for speaking with me.
All right, thank you, Emma.
Thank you, Ed, for speaking with me. I hope you enjoyed this interview, and I will see you next time. Bye.